Two neighborhoods, one zip code, and a personality that is so different you will swear they were separated by a state line and a personality test. Here's the number that sets up this entire comparison. Kiley Ranch Marketplace now has over 400,000 square foot of retail, and it's all going up right at the border of both of these neighborhoods. One side gets the convenient access to it and the other gets all the traffic. And which side you're on matters a lot more than most people realize when you're shopping for addresses. And if you're watching this video, you've probably already ran some sort of scenario on the math about leaving California. You probably already know what your state income tax is already costing you. And you might have even looked at what your equity would do in a different market. You're not here because somebody sold you on the idea. You're actually here going, is this where I would actually want to land? So I'm just going to skip the part where I tell you Reno is really great. You already know that, but I'm going to jump right into the point and show you the comparison of why these two neighborhoods are very different. Because here's the thing about Spanish Springs and Wingfield Springs. One of these will turn your patio furniture into an unguided projectile. And the other one's going to send you a letter if your trash cans are visible from the street. And which one of these two fits comes down to one question. I'll give you that at the end. First, these two places aren't technically the same place, which seems to confuse every out-of-state buyer. Wingfield Springs is on the inside of the city of Sparks, and Spanish Springs is in the unincorporated aspect of the county just north of it. They both share the 89436 zip code, which occasionally confuses your Amazon driver, your insurance agent, and one friend from Sacramento who argues about it confidently with zero local knowledge. You know the one. And if you're coming from Roseville or Rockland, you're already made one step away from the core. You already know what it's like to trade density for space, and you won't regret it. So this comparison is going to feel familiar. And you'll be able to make a decision faster than most of the clients I worked with because you've asked the harder question already. And if you're from the Bay Area or LA, then welcome to the details. Here's what it feels like on the ground level. Spanish Springs feels like Nevada. I mean that as a compliment. You pull onto a typical street and there's a guy with a $90,000 diesel truck, two jet skis on a trailer, a toy hauler in the driveway, a side-by-side in the garage, along with a boat parked along the side fence. And somehow he is the most normal person on the block. Nobody blinks and nobody's going to start a Facebook group about it. Also, in a lot of Spanish Springs, there's no HOAs. Whatever you park, store, or build in your driveway is largely between you and your conscience. It's the kind of neighborhood where you could have more recreational vehicles than you do family members and still be considered low-key. You're gonna fit right in here. In contrast, Wingfield Springs feels like a beautiful suburban that just happens to be in Nevada. It's manicured, polished, golf carts on the path, matching fences, and coordinated landscaping. So if you've lived in a master planned community in the Bay Area or San Diego, this is gonna feel familiar. It'll be comfortable, like slipping on a well-organized HOA newsletter and somehow finding it cozy. Some buyers walk into Wingfield and feel and actually make the comment that this feels upscale. Others are gonna walk in and immediately think, this place has a committee for the committees. Both reactions are accurate. But before we discuss the Pyramid Highway reality, I want you to hit that like and subscribe button because I put videos like this out every single week. And now on to the thing that seems to unite all of Northern Nevadans, and that's complaining about Pyramid Highway. Pyramid Highway is the main artery that connects Spanish Springs and going towards South Reno. People will read that or hear that and nod their heads like they understand. They don't understand that until their very first Tuesday morning at 7:48, realizing they're going nowhere. And the locals, well, they have a piece of advice for all the new locals, and that is, do not leave your house at 7:45. That's not a suggestion. That's compressed wisdom of thousands of commutes, all spun into 5 words. Currently, for the 2026 update, the Pyramid Highway Operations improvement that goes between Ingenuity Avenue and Egyptian Drive just hit construction this spring. You're going to run into orange cones, lane shifts, the full experience. And that's going to be the reality for the next year or two. So grab a coffee, get that audio book, or your favorite podcast. Whatever will keep you from honking at particularly nobody. Now, here's where Wingfield has a structural advantage that nobody asks about. And that is Sparks Boulevard and Vista give you those escape routes that you want. They access shopping, freeway on-ramps, and daily life without ever touching Pyramid. The Spanish Springs residents, though, are Pyramid Highway locked mostly. And that's a real conversation to have before you fall in love with that house that's 12 minutes deeper into the valley. But here's something that never pops into those conversations if you work in TRIC. The Tahoe Regional Industrial Center with Tesla, Panasonic, Switch, Google infrastructure, and the AI build-out is in the northeast of Reno. Spanish Springs commutes towards TRIC, not against it. If your job or your company is part of that ecosystem, then Spanish Springs isn't fighting Pyramid to get downtown. It's headed the other direction entirely. And that completely flips the commuting math for most of who lives there. I moved from 2015 and I have sat in the traffic on Pyramid Highway just long enough to make me reconsider decisions I made in my 20s. I'm not exaggerating. That's just what happens when you have all that extra time to think. But before we get into the Kiley Ranch shift and what it means for those neighborhoods in 2026, let me tell you about the one thing every relocating buyer misses completely. And once I say it, you're gonna be thinking about this every time you look at a house out here. And that is, nobody probably warned you about the Washoe Zephyr. And that's the local name for the wind and the type of wind that rolls through this valley every afternoon. In Spanish Springs, particularly the farther you go north and east, that wind is not just an afternoon breeze. We're talking check your backyard every windstorm because your umbrella now may belong to the neighbor 3 streets over kind of wind. We know of trampolines who have decided to relocate themselves 3 doors down in the middle of the afternoon. The family didn't find it as entertaining as the neighbors did. This is all because Spanish Springs sits closer to the desert flats. When that Zephyr cranks up, you'll get legitimate dust clouds with brownouts rolling through neighborhoods, especially in newer and flatter developments where they don't have the mature trees to break a lot of that up. You'll wash your car on a Saturday, and by Sunday afternoon, it'll look like it went through a desert rally. Wingfield, on the other hand, handles this much better. More mature landscaping, heavier turf, denser neighborhoods layouts with it buffers the wind in a way that you can actually feel on a bad afternoon. It's not completely immune, but if you're arriving from Palo Alto, those 2 areas feel different climates on a Zephyr day. The upside of Spanish Springs, from the higher elevations near Sky Ranch Middle School, you'll get some of the best sunset views in the valley looking west over the Sierra Nevadas. And on a clear evening, it is legitimately stunning. You're just gonna wanna watch it from inside the house looking through the window, and not outside while chasing your umbrella clear to Fernley. So let's talk about garages, lots, and operational freedom, because this is the biggest practical split between these 2 areas. And it's why business owners, contractors, outdoor-oriented families end up in Spanish Springs at a rate that isn't random. Spanish Springs medium lots runs typically between 1/4 to 1 acre. In Wingfield, in contrast, the medium lot there is 0.12 to 0.25 acres. Spanish Springs gives you actual room, RV garages, detached shops. It will also give you oversized driveways, space for the boat, the trailer, the toy hauler, and the work truck. You'll still have enough payment left over to wash all of it on a Sunday afternoon without a 17-point turn. And here's the part that California business owners find life-changing. Your neighbors don't care what you park there. You're not going to need a parking variance, and you don't have to write a carefully worded email to the panel of 5 people who take their volunteer position very seriously. And you don't have to back that trailer in at midnight trying to avoid the HOA president from looking at you through the window. You park the thing, you go inside, it's done. So if you're running a business, and I do mean a real business with equipment, vehicles, inventory, or anything that needs somewhere to live, Spanish Springs neighborhood is the one that doesn't fight you on that. California's been fighting you on that for years. This is the end of that particular bureaucratic friction that is not a small thing. So for the clients that own their own business who make this move, this relief isn't just financial, it's actually operational. The cost of the HOA friction variance requests, the storage unit rental that doesn't show up on the spreadsheet, but it shows up every single week, that overhead just disappears in Spanish Springs. Wingfield gives you that clean, traditional suburban setup. You're going to have 2 to 3 car garages, landscaped front yards, and HOAs who actually hold up to their own rules. It's gonna photograph beautifully. But if you own a boat, a side-by-side, work equipment, or anything requiring a flatbed to relocate, the Wingfield will make that logistically complicated, and eventually psychologically complicated too. There is a frustration to owning all those things you have nowhere to put. California knows that feeling. They just typically blame the house and not the rules. But a quick note on those outer estates in Spanish Springs. Some of these properties still run on well and septic. For some buyers, that's total independence. For buyers from Orange County who have never once thought about where their water comes from, the first septic maintenance conversation lands like a foreign language. My wife Cindy has spent over 3 decades in the industry, coupled with my 2 decades. The good news is nothing about that really surprises us anymore. We've seen all the angles, we've seen all the scenarios, and we're pretty good at keeping you calm and walking you through it. You'll come through all of this being fully informed and having a greater understanding by the time we close. All right, I mentioned Kiley Ranch at the start. Here's why that development changes the old conventional wisdom about convenience in this comparison, and why the calculus is different in 2026 than it was even 2 years ago. And that's the Kiley Ranch Marketplace. It sits at the southeast corner of Pyramid Highway in Wingfield Hills. There's over 400,000 square feet of retail currently under construction. The standard knock on Spanish Springs has always been the errand friction. You better grab that item that you need while you're in town was advice that the locals all gave to new residents. Because once you head north into Spanish Springs, the spontaneous errands is no longer spontaneous. Kiley Ranch is actually changing that math. Spanish Springs is now getting that retail convenience that it's always been lacking, and it's happening fast. But here's the local nuance. All that retail does equate to more traffic. And right now, with the Pyramid Highway already being under construction, that intersection is becoming a legitimate bottleneck. Wingfield residents can actually access Kiley Ranch by taking back roads without ever touching Pyramid. Spanish Springs residents that are heading south have to hit it. There's no way around it. The convenience gap is narrowing. The traffic friction hasn't disappeared, it's just shifted slightly. But the Costco in Spanish Springs on a Saturday morning at 11? That didn't. I say that as someone who has made that very mistake multiple times, saying, I'll be quick about it. No, you won't. You're going to spend 14 minutes looking for parking while watching a lifted F-350 with a wakeboard attempt a three-point turn in a space designated for a sedan. It's both impressive and humbling. The pro move here is to go Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning. You'll be right in and out, and it's gonna feel like you're a person who has all your life together. I highly recommend it. Both areas have excellent parks, but they serve a completely different energy. And understanding the difference tells you a lot about each neighborhood's personality. Spanish Springs has the Lazy 5 Regional Park. It's the community heart, the summer music scene, and the water park play splash pad where you take your kids, set up a chair, and pretend you're relaxing while watching the toddler attempt to drink directly from the spray jet. It's casual, accessible, and a real neighborhood gathering place. Wingfield has the Golden Eagle Regional Park. It's one of the largest artificial turf complexes in all of North America. It's an organized sports at a serious level for soccer tournaments, travel teams with full infrastructure. On a regular Tuesday, it's great. On a tournament weekend, traffic near Wingfield and Bridle Path gets seriously busy with out-of-town teams and parents who are extremely invested in their youth's recreational soccer. So if you're buying anywhere near Golden Eagle, this is going to be useful information for you to consider for those Saturday mornings. And for Wingfield's major anchor, you have Red Hawk Golf Course and Resort. The Red Hawk 2526 new state-of-the-art clubhouse is finishing now. The bunker count did reduce down from 71 to 46 for more player-friendly play. They just overhauled the course from 71 bunkers down to 46 for more player-friendly across all skill levels. They have a brand new clubhouse finishing up right now, so if you golf or if your spouse golfs, you have accepted that the permanent line item in the household budget. Wingfield is genuinely built around that lifestyle. One of the things that actually catches new residents off guard is you can only walk the golf trails when golf's not in play. There are strict rules on pedestrian access. It's a real friction point for buyers who assume the trail system was open at all times, especially if you've already told your kids they can bike those paths on a Saturday morning, and now you have to explain the golf right-of-way to a 7-year-old who has strong opinions about fairness. Spanish Springs is going to be that outdoor utility. It's off-roading, desert access, open spaces, and two very different weekends depending on who you are. Schools matter enormously to those relocating families, and both of these areas have very solid options, but here's my honest advice. Don't assume that the neighborhood name tells the full school story, or even the boundary shifts. A property on one side of the street could be in one school district with one directly across the street in another. I've seen buyers who have decided on a neighborhood based on a school. They skip confirming the actual boundary, and then they find out during escrow that their address pulls to a different campus. And at that point, that conversation gets very quiet. Spanish Springs has Spanish Springs High, Shaw Middle School, Sky Ranch Middle School, and Van Goder Elementary. It's a strong suburban family infrastructure with an active community in sports culture and newer campuses. Wingfield overlaps Sparks area schools depending on the boundary. It has strong walkability. It's a good fit for dual-income professional families who want a neighborhood convenience along with solid academics. My team will always pull the school assignment for the property that you're looking at before you write the offer. Not a guess, an actual confirmed assignment for the address you're looking at. That's the right standard. Confirm it every single time, no exceptions. All right, about the numbers. Because at some point in this video, you're running the numbers in your head. Well, let me give you the actual numbers along with the context to make it useful. Spanish Springs runs about $620,000 to $670,000 for the median price as of 2026. That range swings significantly because we have entry-level subdivision, large custom homes, horse properties, acreage estates, all under the same valley name. Wingfield comes in slightly lower from $575,000 to $620,000 with much more consistent numbers. Mostly suburban production homes from Lennar, Toll Brothers, Ryder, Silverado, and all built from late 1990s through the 2020s. The premium inside of Wingfield generally comes from golf frontage, true mountain views, or upgraded construction. Spanish Springs gives you more house, larger garages, more storage, and more outdoor utility. Wingfield gives you a more polished interiors from a more efficient floor plan. The honest translation is Spanish Springs is buying space and operational freedom, where Wingfield is buying finish and convenience. And that number generally changed the conversation for most California buyers. So what does all that California equity actually buy you here? Well, if you're sitting on $600 to $1.2 million in that Bay Area or LA house, that equity doesn't just buy a comparable home here. It buys a better house on a bigger lot in a lower tax state, and in many cases it eliminates the mortgage entirely or drops it to a number that stops feeling like a weight. That's the math that California buyers haven't fully ran when they start comparing neighborhoods. They start comparing what a $620,000 house there looks like to a $620,000 here. But those are not the same transaction. That equity that gets redeployed here actually changes everything about what you can buy. So that $620,000 here is not the same $620,000 house in Pleasanton. Not even close. And here's the thing that California buyers figure out after moving here fast. And that is the cost of having enough garage space doesn't show up on the spreadsheet. It shows up 6 months later when you're renting storage and sparks because you ran out of room and doing the math on whether you should have gotten that bigger lot. So I'll tell you, buy the bigger lot. Your future self will thank you. All right, I promised you one question at the beginning of the videos, so here it is. Does your house need to work for you or perform for you? Spanish Springs is for those families who need their house to work for them. A place to store the toys, park the truck, run the operation, and give them room to breathe and leave them alone about their trash cans. Wingfield Springs is for those people who need their house to perform. It's going to look sharp on a Tuesday and give you a path to walk on Saturday. You'll have the kind of neighborhood that looks exactly like the mental image they had when they first typed "Move to Nevada" into Google at 11 p.m. after that long day. So neither one of these are wrong, they're just built for two very different people. So I'll say this directly because I think it needs to be said. And that is, people who watch this type of content tend to worry about whether California is a step down in moving to Nevada. They think it's possibly a retreat. It isn't. The people who I have watched do this well are not in retreat. They're executing on a decision that their CPA, their financial planner, and the own math that they've been doing has been pointing at for years already. They're moving with intention, they're redeploying equity, they're cutting overhead that they never had to carry in the first place, and landing in a neighborhood that actually fits how they live. That's not a retreat, that's a plan. I moved here from California in 2015 myself, and I know how it feels to land somewhere that just fits. And I know what it's like to watch a client to land somewhere that doesn't. That's usually because they optimize price or square footage over lifestyle. The patio furniture thing is real, by the way. On a Washoe Zephyr afternoon, the right part of Spanish Springs, your outdoor furniture is making decision about its future independent from you. You should plan accordingly. And if your biggest concern is whether your trash cans are visible from the street, Wingfield has infrastructure just for that. They take it seriously. You'll be in good hands. So if you're comparing these two neighborhoods seriously, or if you want to talk through how both of these fit your commute, your business, and your lifestyle, or just see how all that California equity will deploy here, We'll be happy to set aside some time for that exact conversation. And if you're a business owner or investor and you're looking at making a move larger than just a house, that'll be a completely different conversation from just a normal buyer. We'll do an entire strategic session with you on how to set that all up. That's a conversation I have every single week with people in your position. You can book a time with me at meetwithchris.com. You won't get any pitch or pressure. Just a real conversation on whether this move actually makes sense for you and how to do it right the first time. The link's in the description. I'm Chris Rayner, your go-to realtor for all things Reno. We'll see you on the next one.